All right. So if you tune in on social media and you listen to people like Ben Shapiro, Tim Pool, uh, or some of the people on actually almost every single person on Fox who also have gone on to do their own social media casts. If you do read Breitbart or you watch and listen to Breitbart, if you pay attention to the Centers for American Progress or a whole host of other things, take if you take what the so-called intelligence service of the United States and the Western countries say to heart, if you listen to these so-called academics who are paid by either by places like CPAC or by corporations to spout lies. If you listen to agencies which are staffed by the swamp because they're appointed to it, and these are ex-lobbyists for fossil fuels or for the drug companies or for the medical companies or for the chemical companies or for so on and so forth. If you listen to these people and you listen to the media, we like to use terms right and left. Thing is there's no such thing as right and left. There is right and there is wrong. And whether it's CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS, NBC, or PBS, or Fox, Breitbart, or any other such, they're all telling you lies. They're all funded by corporations, and the corporations are in bed with the politicians. Now, how do I know this to be true? Because oftentimes you have the left media, the left so-called media, talking about racism, and it's coming from the red states, right? And the Republicans and conservatives and the centrists and so on and so forth. But the thing is that if that's the case, then why is it Kentucky, which is a red state, and that's just one state, and there are dozens upon dozens of states who are supposed to be red that have large white communities are being hit just almost as hard as the minority communities. And if you just take the time and the initiative to look into it, even by the statistics that the so-called government and the agencies put out, you start to see something glaringly wrong. And that glaringly wrong is that it's your so-called leaders, your politicians, the leaders of your community who are fucking you over. And for you to buy into the nonsense, and for you to listen to Tim Pool, or as I like to call him, Tim Fool, or Ben Shapiro, or Beanie Shapiro, Beanie Baby Shapiro, or or Breitbart, Fox, or any of those, and I'm not discounting the so-called left media, which isn't left at all, they're all on the wrong side. They're on the side of self promotion, of self interest, of keeping as many Americans down. And if what's currently happening with the so-called bailout bill, which basically gives the overwhelming majority of the trillions upon trillions upon trillions, and the smallest figure is 6 right now, but more objective people, honest, objective people are saying it's going to actually be in the 14 trillion or even higher. Meanwhile, we have over 10 million who have just filed for unemployment. And they're not all minorities. We got lawyers. We got chefs. And so on and so forth. These people have, and a lot of them have never filed for unemployment. So understand something. If being on the right, if being a conservative, if being a liberal or a centrist is supposed to buy you some security, I'm not seeing it. Where is this security? Where is it? Where is it? I put in over 30 years of working, and you know what I qualify for? For collecting early Social Security? $15,000 fucking dollars. Now I'm fortunate in a small way that I got back pay and I was able to buy a house. But that house needs a lot of small things done, and that all adds up, and I can't put the money into it. I'm also fortunate that I have parents who have good credit and are in a better economic situation, that they can help me out somewhat. But even my father, who is got the best credit and so on and so forth, and is in a better economic, even he can't do much. He's stretched thin. And he's from an affluent suburb in Massachusetts. Incidentally, my name is Mark Mahan. If you notice, that means I was adopted. I was naturalized in the 80s. So, understand something. My father makes a little over 6 figures. Yet he can barely keep up. He's stretched thin. And it's getting worse. So when I hear from Tim Fool and Beanie Baby Shapiro and the Breitbarts and Fox and all those constantly spouting bullshit, it pisses me off. Why? Because I don't want to see any American, whatever their skin color, being hoodwinked and taken. I am a collectivist who sees truth, who understands truth. And the truth is that our so-called government, our so-called legitimate businesses, our so-called wealthy, and our so-called political leaders are all frauds. They're all con men and con women. They're a fucking mafia. Occupy, which was set off because they gave away trillions to bail out the banks and corporations like GM and Ford and Chrysler. Then and this has just gone on and on and on. Never mind though the war, which was started with a country that had nothing to do with 9/11, which is even by the so-called mainstream media admitted, and the so-called political leaders admitted that that Iraq had no connection, that it was Saudi Arabia who's funding the radicals. So they admit to this, yet we're supposed to send our loved ones to go fight a war so that these criminals can go send our fellow Americans to kill and be killed, so that they can extract oil and other minerals, so that they can stuff their fucking pockets. What sense is that? We got Tim Fool recently talking about China and the coronavirus. Except if you actually if you actually take an interest and want to find the truth, you can see that China actually did everything possible to stem. That they actually couldn't do better. They couldn't actually have done better. And the only reason why you are misinformed is because you're listening to Tim Fool. You're listening to Ben Shapiro. You're listening to Fox. You're listening to Breitbart. And they're all against you. They're the ones helping Mitch McConnell and others like him, and the Nancy Pelosi's and the Chuck Schumers and that and the other there's another one. There's several others, but none of them are your friends. They're all mafia who've been legitimized. So understand, you're doing yourself a disservice. You're digging your own grave. You're the one causing your own harm. Don't do that. It's not necessary. It's not necessary. Because even when you did get the laws, even when you did get the legislation and policies, which attacked, which was made to attack the minority communities, those same rules, regulations, legislation, and policies and statutes were used against you. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Why would you commit self-inflicted wounds? We have a commonality, no matter our our ethnic background. We have a commonality. We have a commonality in that it is us against those in power, us against the corporations who are making us into wage slaves, and not even bothering now to even give us a living wage. If anything, they're cutting. If anything, they're making the living wage obsolete because they're increasing the pricing on everything. There are many things that the quote unquote right point out that are right, truthful. But you're labeled when they come out with that. You're labeled conspiracy. But the same goes for everybody else who bucks against the power. We're all conspiracy theorists. Except when the real conspiracy is that those in power, which includes your religious organizations, the institutions, just take, for instance, the pedophilia happening in the Catholic Church. But it is not exclusive to the Catholic Church. It's in all sectors of Christian denomination. Every single one of them. It's happening in the Jewish synagogues. It's happening in the Muslim mosques. It's happening in the Buddhists. It's happening everywhere. And the worst offenders are those so-called evangelical megachurches who are basically con artists whose ideology is to rake every inch, every nick, every petty pinching penny that they can from you. So, understand, whether you watch MSNBC or CNN and PBS or The New Yorker or Breitbart or Fox, NPR, The Atlantic, whether you watch any of them, whether you watch stuff that's on the so-called left media, who, by the way, is far more objective, but still prone to parroting the propaganda machine that we call media or the mainstream. But you got to understand, you have to start thinking more clearly. You have to understand who the enemy is. The enemy is the establishment. When you're born, you're brought in to the societal propaganda, which is at war with us from birth to death. I don't care if you call yourself a libertarian. I don't care if you call yourself a liberal. I don't care if you call yourself left. I don't care if you call yourself right. All of it is bullshit. All of it is bullshit. And all of it is literally killing us in dozens of ways. Emotionally, intellectually, physically, economically, societarially, all of it. The so-called right is more egregious. They're more egregiously openly against us collectively. But the so-called liberal or left media is just as egregious. They're just more sly about it. Understand whether you call yourself a Democrat or an independent, Green Party, or Republican, every single one of them, from local to state to federal, are against you. They are working actively against you. Against us. Education in this country, and actually generally in the Western world, has gone down because lies and propaganda has been seeded into it. I mean, just think about what you learned when you went from first grade to 12th grade. The history books is complete fabrication, complete and utter fabrication, utter lies. That's just one glaring example, which doesn't need a whole heck of a lot of formal education to understand. You have to be able to think critically, understand what is true and what is false. Natural law intelligence is critical. The reality that we live in is a false illusion where there is no security, there is no liberty, there is no freedom, and individuality is junk. Because individuality is code name for, hey, be an asshole, be self-absorbed, because that's the sort of thing that allowed Jeffrey Epstein to run a pedophilia ring. That's the sort of thing that allowed Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, Prince Andrew, the guy that owns that lingerie chain, Victoria's Secrets, and the names of the so-called high power and wealthy people is staggering, absolutely staggering. For all the fact that Pizzagate wasn't actually true, but it is actually happening. Just not what the Pizzagate story said. Oh, and that's another unhinged idiot that you shouldn't be listening to. I forget the idiot's name. So understand. Stop listening to idiots who are doing you harm, who are doing you harm. Stop listening to them. Don't just stick with those. Look at everything. I keep up with the Tim Fools. I keep up with the Ben Shapiros. I keep up with the Breitbarts. I keep up with the MSNBCs, the Fox, CNN, ABC, New York Times, Washington Post, the BBC, Al Jazeera, RT. I keep up with the Chinese news, so-called news channels. I keep up with all of them. I I take in all of it, and I come through critical thinking, through looking at objective facts, which I can actually look up and confirm, and then I get the clear picture. If all you're taking is garbage, you're going to think garbage. Worldwide, those of us who are not millionaires and billionaires, those of us who are not in political power, are getting raked over the coals. And part of that is because we listen to garbage. We're not actually looking into it ourselves. It's all right to be be hoodwinked, but it's finding out how we've been hoodwinked and being able to find the truth, the real truth, that we grow, that we start to understand, that we start to know who the enemy is. And that's what I do. I don't consider myself left. I don't consider myself anything. Even though I've said it before. The conclusion I've come up to is left, radical right, centrist, liberal, conservative. It's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. And we have to come to understand that all of it is diversionary, all of it is deceit, all of it is deception, all of it is to make us fight one another. We have to be invested in ourselves so that we can be invested in the collective, because the collective is the backbone. So whether you're black, white, Asian, or brown or whatever, we all are the collective. We all make up the community. We and and when other communities come together, that makes a country. We are the backbones. We are the engines. And if you are fighting the community, if you are listening to garbage, then you are helping the enemy. This is why robber barons who used to own owned the railroads and just about everything else, who created these gigantic monopolies, eventually ended up getting because of collective solidarity. There was some backlash against them, but what should have taken place is that the collective should have stayed steady and completely eviscerated and gotten rid of these robber barons, these criminals, these super predators, these super criminals. Stop following the rigged laws, the rigged system, who sees you as expendable and it can send you to jail and take you away from your family. Stop buying this narrative, this garbage, because we only hurt ourselves. Whether you're a judge, a DA, or a lawyer, they're all the enemy. They are all the enemy. We are stronger together is very basic. And we must understand this. Because right now, it looks like we're gonna have a physical civil war coming up shortly. But if we can't understand the collective solidarity, then we're just going to go around killing each other, doing the work and doing the bidding of the real criminals. Because they're going to go hide in their bunkers. They're going to go take off. Just like your politicians now, the so-called leaders, aren't doing the jobs and they're hiding away because of the coronavirus. But it's also because they just gave themselves and the people that they work for, the 100 millionaires and the billionaires and the millionaires. They just serve themselves up the money, which is basically robbery. It's theft. Well, you get nothing. Or if you do get something, it's going to be months down the road before you get, and it's a one time. And meanwhile, you have lost your homes. Meanwhile, you can't pay your rent. You can't pay your mortgage. And every single time something like this happens, just like in 2008, where 5 million people were made homeless, losing their homes to people like Steve Mnuchin for the mortgage, the fraud company that they call mortgage companies, basically foreclosed on 5 million of us. And this is going to happen again. You wait. You wait. It's going to happen again. As soon as the coronavirus seems to have leveled out, and is going down, you wait. It's going to happen. Just the way they bailed out the in 2008 crash, as they've always done. So, please, for the love of yourself, for the love of fellow Americans, for the love of country, be patriotic. Don't pay your bills. Don't pay your rent. Don't pay your taxes. Don't go to work. Don't do anything. Sit at your homes. Get together with your communities. Pool your basic resources. Don't drive. Don't do anything. And if anything, make videos demanding that these trillions that are being stolen in a daylight robbery be sent to us. When I say us, I'm talking about Americans, the backbone, the foundation. And don't stipulate, oh, if they look like me, or if they're black or Hispanic or whatever. Don't make those stipulations, because they always use that against you. Always. They always use it against us collectively. Do a general strike. You don't have to go in front of your workplaces to strike. Just simply stay home. Refuse to pay anything. Don't buy gas. Don't buy electronics. Don't do anything. Don't pay your cell phone bill. Don't pay your internet bill. Don't pay your rent. Don't pay your mortgage. Don't do anything. Just sit and tell them, hey, you do what we ask, what we tell you to do. No, don't ask. You do what we tell you to do. You give us the money. You take back the money that you stole, and you send these criminals to jail, and you walk yourself to jail yourself. And that includes the judges and the DAs and the police chiefs, the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, DOD, DOJ, all of them. The FAA, the FDA, the EPA, all of them. You demand that that these billionaires and the corporations and the CEOs and the board and the majority shareholders of these corporations and internationals and multinationals go to jail, walk themselves in jail. You tell them, you don't do it, we're going to come out there with our ropes, we're going to find the nearest, tallest thing and hang you from it. That's what you need to do. That's what we all need to do. Thank you for your time.